Hello and welcome to Try Your Hand Christmas Cookies. I'm Carol Patterson from the Antioch Public Library, and today we're going to be making pinwheel cookies. It's always a good idea whenever you're baking to first of all make sure that you have all of your ingredients and supplies that you need for your recipe. If you take a look at the recipe card that's in your supply kit, you can find the rest of the ingredients there. Now, if you didn't happen to get a supply kit at the library, that's fine. You can just use ingredients that you have at home. The first ingredient that it calls for is 3 cups of all-purpose flour, which you'll find in this bag here marked flour. Then you have a half a teaspoon baking powder and half a teaspoon salt, which is in this little cup. They're both in there together because they're going to be mixed together anyway. Then we have 1 1/3 cups of granulated sugar in another baggie. Now the next 2 ingredients, the 1 cup of butter and the 2 eggs, you'll need to supply that yourself. We couldn't really put that in a bag for you. Now the butter is supposed to be softened, which just means that it's been set out at room temperature. Don't have to melt it or anything like that. And next we have 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, which is in another little cup, and food coloring, just a smidge in another cup, and then sprinkles, which again are in a baggie. The equipment that you'll need for this recipe is 2 large mixing bowls, a hand mixer, and a spatula. Later on, this is kind of like a 2-part recipe. You'll also need a rolling pin and cookie sheets. In your bag, you'll also have 4 pieces of parchment paper. Now, if you don't have a rolling pin, don't worry. You can just use a large can. Here we go, something like this. I have a can of tomato juice, and you can just use that as a rolling pin if you don't have one available. So let's get started. Just to let you know, I have never made these cookies before, so it's a learning experience for both of us. Now the instructions are to mix the dry ingredients, the flour, the baking powder, and salt in a large mixing bowl.
So, the first direction is to stir all the dry ingredients together, which are the flour, the baking powder, and the salt.
Not sugar.
Not the sugar, unlike my reject first try where I accidentally put the sugar inside with the flour. You're not supposed to do that. Don't be like me. All right, so in our bowl, we shall put in our flour, which is all handily already measured out for you. And then I believe in here is our salt and our baking powder. So we just dump that out. And then we stir. Okay, so now that is all stirred in, we will put this to the side and then follow the next directions. All right, so now we have to mix our sugar,
Sugar.
and our butter together. So, no, hand me the butter.
Where's the bottle? Here it is.
It's okay. So it is supposed to be soft. Okay, that's good enough. Putting that in there, and then again, sugar's already measured out for you, and we're dumping that in there.
And then the instructions say to mix with an electric mixer until light and fluffy. So here we go. Don't want to start out too fast because you'll end up with a mess. Now they say this takes about 2 minutes. So I'm just going to be mixing my butter and sugar here until all the clumps are gone.
Okay, so I would say that that's good. I think this is considered light and fluffy.
So that's all mixed up, all nice. No more clumps left in the batter. Now after we've done that, then you add the eggs one at a time, beating after each addition.
So, okay. What we want to do is just mix the egg until it's well mixed in, and then we add the other one. Okay. And then we add the other egg. Okay. I'm going to scrape down the sides of my bowl first here. Okay. Then we mix again.
So we've got our eggs in there. The next thing it says is to add the vanilla and mix. I'm going to read ahead a little bit here, and then it says add the flour mixture from step 1 and beat on low with mixture until just combined. So okay, first we're adding the vanilla. Going to mix that in, and then we're going to add the flour. Okay, so there's the vanilla. Mix that in there. Combine. Now it doesn't say this, but I don't like to mix the flour in all together at once, so I'm just going to spoon some of this in and mix it, and just keep doing that until all the flour is mixed in. We'll see how that works. Otherwise, I tend to end up with a whole lot of powder, a whole lot of flour everywhere, not necessarily in the bowl where I want it. Okay, that's mixed in.
It looks like we just mixed the whole thing in there. Well. Okay, that looks about just combined.
Okay, and that looks, I'm just going to stir a little bit with my spatula. There's just a little bit of the flour clinging on the sides of the bowl. Get that mixed in there. And there we are. That's looking good. Now the next thing to do is divide the dough in half and put half of the dough in the refrigerator. So I'm just going to like eyeball this, and we want to do this because if you're familiar with pinwheel cookies, half your dough is going to stay uncolored, and the other half of the dough we're going to put food coloring in. So we'll take half the dough, put it in the bowl to be put in the refrigerator. Now all of the dough is eventually going to go in the refrigerator because we'll be rolling it out, and you want the dough cold, otherwise it'll be really sticky and hard to roll out and handle. Let's see. Now we're going to take the food coloring. This is a gel food coloring, so you're going to want to take just, it doesn't look like very much, but this will give a lot of color. So I'm just going to take a little bit out with a knife, put it in the dough, and mix it in there a little at a time. So we're going to mix the food coloring in. And again, I'm going to put that on low again. I didn't even use half of the food coloring that was in the container, and it's looking pretty red to me. You can see that looks pretty red. It's not even completely mixed in yet, so I don't think I'm going to use more. Oh yeah, I got a whole mess on the side of the spatula still. I'll mix this up a little more. Again, we don't want to mix it too much, but we do want the food coloring in the dough.
Okay, I would say that that's pretty well mixed for the most part. So now we shall wait for a half hour, at least.
So I know the recipe card shows a really bright red. I don't necessarily want mine that bright. I prefer a lighter color because I think this is still plenty red. But this is where you get to do what you want with that. And now both of these will go into the refrigerator, and they have to be in the refrigerator at least 30 minutes before we start working with them. So I'll see you in 30 minutes. All right, so our dough has been in the refrigerator at least 30 minutes. Mine's been in for a couple hours now, actually. So it should be nice and cool, and we should be able to roll it out fairly easy. So you're going to take your dough out of the bowl, obviously, and you're going to place it between the parchment paper. If you notice on the instructions, it says to roll it into two pieces that are 16 by 12 inches. Well, my parchment paper is actually 14 by 11 inches, so we're going to be a little short, but that won't matter. What's nice about this parchment paper is that we know exactly how big we want to make it, and we can just roll it right out on this paper to cover the paper. You might want to press it down a little bit with your hands just to make the rolling a little bit easier. So we've got that piece of dough on that parchment paper. We're putting the other parchment paper on top. And you want to just kind of work it slowly with your rolling pin, starting in the middle, working out one direction, turning your paper, working it out the other direction, and just keep rolling until you have it in the rectangular shape. Okay, so I've got my first dough rolled out, and to be honest with you, that was a little harder than I had expected. But I was able to get it into the sheet. We'll peel the first layer off. And so it practically covers that whole sheet. So you can leave the top layer off on that, and you can go ahead and do the other sheet. Now I'm going to save the sheet of parchment paper because we're going to be using that to bake the cookies on. So here we go with the colored dough now. Be the same thing. Take the dough out and then squish it down. What I did when I was rolling my dough out, if I found that I was getting over the edge on one side, I'd simply cut that off and fill it in on the spaces that were short. And once you roll it, it will mold together with the rest of the dough so that you won't even know that you've added it into that spot. Okay, so here's what I was going to show you. You see this side is coming off of the paper. It's just an awkward shape. So I'm just going to take a butter knife and cut that part of the dough off. And then I'm going to move it to this corner where I'm a little short on dough. So we'll just place that in there, just like working with clay. Press it in a little bit and then roll it again, and it just becomes a part of that.
Alright, so then we remove the parchment of this one. Okay. And then we'll remove the parchment in the other one. Alright. And then we okay, so then we put it on top of one another. It says carefully. Now, okay, then we take the parchment off of this one. So let us carefully take the parchment off. Okay.
So we need to, after we put the doughs together, we're going to cut it in half, making 2 8 by 12. So that would be this way. So cut it down the middle. That wasn't quite the middle. Okay. Okay, because we want 2 rolls. All right. Then we're going to roll it. We are going to roll it from this short end, but now we have 2 separate pieces of dough. So we'll start here, roll this one up.
Okay. So then we're just rolling these. So I found it easier to just take off the parchment paper off of all of them and then put it on a like a new sheet of parchment paper. That way it's not like so stuck to the parchment paper. Okay.
So roll it up and then kind of push that loose end in. It really is like working with Play-Doh or something. So there's one roll. See, I press that seam down so it won't come loose there. And we're going to do the same thing with this roll. So we've got our 2 cookie rolls. Now the next thing we're going to do is put the sprinkles on the outside. And I've decided to do mine in a baking dish so I don't get sprinkles all over. And I'm going to take my sprinkles, pour about half of them into the dish. I'll take my cookie roll and roll it in the sprinkles and get it coated fairly even. I'm not going to worry too much about the very ends because those are going to be cut off. I need a few more. And you're going to wrap your, call it a cookie log, in the plastic wrap. And then that goes in the refrigerator again for at least 3 hours. I'm just going to set that in my refrigerator. Wait for 3 hours. Well, hello, so we're back again. We've let our cookies stay in the refrigerator for at least 3 hours. I happen to leave mine in overnight, so we'll take those out now. I've gotten out the materials that I need for this part of the recipe. I'm just going to be cutting my cookies on a plastic cutting board. I'm just using a steak knife to cut them. You don't need any heavy-duty knife for that. And I've got my cookie sheets. So it says to preheat your oven to 350. I've already done that, so my oven's ready to go at 350. And line the cookie sheets with parchment paper. So I'm going to take the paper that I used yesterday, and I'm just going to put that on top of my cookie sheet here. This makes it easy to, you don't have to grease the cookie sheets or anything, they'll bake real nice on that parchment paper.
So now we are going to cut up the logs that we made and put them on the baking sheet so that we can bake them. Oven's already at 350, which is the heat of the oven that you need. Okay, so then it says here that we need to cut the cookies in 1/4 inch pieces. So, which is like yay-ish.
Okay, so I was able to get about 16 cookies on the one sheet. Now when I bake cookies, I only put in one tray at a time. Otherwise, the heat isn't very even on the cookies, and the ones on the bottom tend to get crisper than the ones on the top. So I just like, let's put some Christmas music on, get some decorations out or something to do in the meantime while you're waiting for these to cook, because it looks like I'm going to maybe have approximately 4 cookie sheets worth of cookies. So I'll be cooking these for quite a while. It takes 8 to 10 minutes. I did read a lot of reviews on this recipe, and most people said that it took more time than the 8 to 10 on here. I'm going to set my timer for 8 minutes and see how it goes. So first batch of cookies in the oven. I'll set that timer for 8 minutes and check it then, see how it's doing. In the meantime, I'm going to keep on slicing cookies so we can fill up another tray.
Now we put them in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes until it's golden brown. So I'm going to take my baking sheets and put it in this middle rack here, and then make the timer for, I'll put it for 9 minutes.
Okay, my timer just went off. It's been 8 minutes, so I'm going to check my cookies. Oh, they're looking good, but they're not near to done yet. So I'm going to put the timer on. I'm going to put it on for another 3 minutes. That would make it 11 minutes that they're cooking, but I'm pretty confident that they're not going to be done. They won't be done in 10 minutes, so we'll set it for 11 and see how that works. Okay, well there goes my timer again. I've actually reset my timer a few times. We're at about 16 minutes now on this, so I'm going to check them again. All right, okay, they are looking to me as though they're done. Turn my timer off and take the cookies out of the oven. Okay. Yep, those are looking good. Now it says on the recipe that they should be lightly golden on the white portion, and I think I've accomplished that on these cookies. Don't want to tip it too much. And they spread a little bit, but not too much. Now, as far as the time that you bake them, every oven's going to be different. It also depends upon what kind of a cookie sheet you're using. So you're just going to have to start conservative and then just keep checking them and baking them until they're done. So here we go with my second tray now.
All right, so the timer just went off. Look at our cookies. All right, I would say that that's, let me see, say that that's ready. So now we just have to let them cool. So once these have cooled on here for a while, what we can do is then once they've cooled here, we take them and we put them on the cooling rack to cool even further. So then, You're moving it too fast. I just had to wait for like a few seconds in order to get these to move them. You know, it's not that they're pretty firmly on there. I just didn't want to move them so much at first. All right, so now we're done. Look at the cookies.
They look like cookies.
They turned out quite nice, I think. All right.
Okay, so all my cookies are baked now and out of the oven. I have to say I'm very pleased with the way that they came out. I think they're nice, cute, good tasting Christmas cookies. I hope you enjoyed baking yours and that you enjoyed this program. I'll see you next time.
Alright, so if we follow the directions, we have to mix together all the dry ingredients. So, we have handily given you already the right amount of dry ingredients. So, this consists mostly of just dumping the ingredients in our bowl that we have not provided for you. So this, you will have to scrounge in you have to find this in your house somewhere. Yeah, Noah. Yeah, like you are awkward most of the time. I hit a nerve there, I think. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that was the flour. That's the sugar. And then if we can find our little thing, oh, there it is. So now that's all mixed, we will put this to the side. And then we will do the next part. So it says here, okay, in a large mixing bowl, add softened butter. Oh, dang. I messed that up. No. I messed that up. I messed that up. I messed that up.
So you could just use the other batch. You know? It did mix up with sugar.
No, I couldn't. So, at least, okay, if you're going to be standing there, be the camera person.
Camera person?
Yes.
Alright.
Okay, you can see that well?
I mean, I think so. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, you're Mr. Camera Person, Noah.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
That's the same anyway.
No, you did, well, yeah, but you didn't have the mixing. You had it like this, Noah.
I mean,
This is,
they could tell that it's mixing.
yeah, but it's not the center of the shot, Noah.
But they know. I'm pretty sure there's more enough to know
Just-
that that's mixing.
Just do that.
You're putting that back in?
Yeah. It's fine.
No,
It's
it's not.
only for us anyway.
Still.
Okay.
Yes, they already saw me now.
We will have to have a wait.
Like sprinkles?
Divine, you help me hold it then.
No, I'm holding the camera.
Hold on.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. So now. Rectangular, but
Yeah.
whatever.
It says to be rectangular, you're just not following the directions.
Well, you know what?
You're not going to get a good cookie.
Okay.
You're making a mess.
I know I'm making a mess. This is the first time I've made these cookies.
This is an interesting cooking video.
Yeah, you know, there is editing involved.
Huh?
There is going to be editing involved, Noah.
I mean, yeah, but like,
Have you even seen any of the videos I've made?
no.
Such a supportive brother.
Yep, I know. Look how well they can see this. I'm not 6 foot.
Yeah, I told you could shorten that, Noah.
How am I mean, can't get a good angle, you know?
Okay. Okay.